Good morning. It's Tuesday, December the 15th, and this is The Drill. Thank you. The prayer of the day. Lord Jesus, change my heart that I may desire that which is pleasing to you. Help me to respect your will and give me the strength, joy, and perseverance to carry it out. Amen. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. Today, basic philosophical principles. Don't confuse republicanism with conservatism. Know who your enemy is. Beware of moderates. Beware of foundation building. The collapse of parenting. Where do we stand? Conservative vocabulary. How to win. And quote of the day. All that when I come back. Thank you. In order to defeat the lefty, you must study basic philosophical principles. Know that the question, if a tree in a forest falls and no one is around to hear it, did it make a noise, is a question about reality. As for knowledge, is knowledge innate? Are you born with all the knowledge you're ever going to have, or is it acquired? Or are we born a blank slate and learn as we go along? That's another way of putting it. Are rights and wrongs universal? Do they apply to everybody, everywhere, for all times? What is justice? Do we have free will, or are we determined by powers beyond our control? What is it that we find beautiful or ugly? Does beauty even exist in reality? Or is it merely a tool used to manipulate and oppress others? And the answers to those questions, the answers that you come up with to those questions will determine whether or not you're a conservative or a socialist. Do not confuse conservatism with republicanism. The former is a worldview. The latter is a political theory. You're not conservative based on the way you vote. You are Republican based on the way you vote. The first thing you have to do is understand your worldview. Are you realistic or idealistic? Do you make the presumption for the status quo and change only when the need for change is obvious, or do you presume change? Are you polytheistic, atheistic, or monotheistic? Once you've answered these questions, you can know whether or not you're a conservative or non-conservative. And by the way, you have to choose. There is no middle ground. There are no moderates. And more importantly, there's no cafeteria. You can't take a little of this and a little of that. You cannot be a little socialist and a little conservative. You're either one or you're the other. Any valid philosophical theory must be all-encompassing for obvious reasons. It must prepare you to deal with any situation or contingency, and the only way to do that is to have political ideas that match your world view. Is the world an inherently bad place where failure is to be expected? The lefty, or is the world a place where we can and do know things and therefore reasonably expect success? When I come back, know who your enemy is and know that there are no moderates. Thank you. You have to know who your enemy is. The left does not go around wearing uniforms. You identify your enemy by hallmarks. The following are the hallmarks of your enemies: socialism, psychologism, subjectivism, pragmatism, activism, materialism, skepticism, and determinism. Psychologism means using psychology as one's frame of reference. Subjectivism means rejecting reality and replacing it with opinion and popularity. Pragmatism says that the ends justify the means. Activism is about acting first and thinking later. Materialism is the denial of the reality of concepts and abstraction. Skepticism denies certainty of knowledge, and determinism is the denial of free will. You must also know that there are no moderates, and you need to know that socialism and conservatism are contradictory, repugnant, and not contrary, black and white. This means that there is no middle ground between socialism and conservatism. Contrary means that two political theories have something basic in common. For instance, socialism and libertarianism are contrary and not contradictory because they have the same basic root in common, namely idealism. Both want an ideal society, they just differ in terms of what they consider to be an ideal society. And again, contradictory means they have nothing in common. Socialism is idealistic, conservatism is realistic, and there is no middle ground. There is no compromise. Beware of foundation building. The left may make statements or ask questions that you're tempted to agree with because they sound innocuous, but they'll be used as a basis for future demands that trap you. For instance, do Black Lives Matter? Yes. Then reparations. Do Black Lives Matter? Of course. Then single-payer health care. Do Black Lives Matter? Certainly. Then socialism. All the political mistakes in this country were made by building on a foundation. Title IX, abortion, the pill, are all built on the foundation that men are inherently and irredeemably oppressive. The legalization of the recreational use of marijuana is based on the foundation that marijuana and alcohol are both drugs. The Endangered Species Act is based on the foundation that nothing can be known with certainty. When I come back, who is the true conservative? Thank you very much. Who is the true conservative? First and foremost, he is God-fearing. Secondly, he is realistic. The true conservative is the man who follows his plan. He is appropriate. He's the person that has the courage of his convictions and is confident in what he knows. He's the person that subordinates politics to reality. He's not selfish, but minds his own business. He acts like an adult. He's patriotic and uses common sense. He is judgmental and moralizes. He refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He's open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He's consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He's a normal American, and he's better than the socialist. He's a better husband, friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that being a true conservative is best, or you're wasting your time. Additional examples of what it means to be a true conservative can be heard by listening to John Cobelt and Ken Champeau on the John and Ken Show on KFI AM 640 Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. My podcast is short, approximately 5 to 20 minutes long, because shorter podcasts are easier to download and listen to. The biggest socio-political influences in my life are Jesus Christ, my parents, my teachers, Hugh Hewitt, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Ayn Rand, and Dr. Mortimer Adler. My podcast is made available through Spreaker and can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, YouTube, and CastBox, among others. I can be reached at thedrill12@gmail.com. So now we're going to go back to the parenting, The Collapse of Parenting, which is a great book that I got on Amazon Kindle, actually as a sample. I need to go ahead and break down and actually purchase this book because it is absolutely fabulous about the difference between parenting when I was growing up and parenting today, and how parents are failing their children today, and that they need to basically go back to the way we were doing things before. Today, parents are not really parents. They're friends. That's what they're taught to do. The left teaches you that you should be friends to your children, not parents. And that's not correct. It's bad for the kids, it's bad for you, and it's bad for society. Why did this change occur, and why here in the United States to a greater degree than in Western Europe? To answer that question, I begin with the insights of Norbert Elias mentioned above. Throughout the 20th century, the legitimacy of almost every kind of authority became suspect throughout Western Europe and North America. Politically, we might summarize the second half of the 20th century as the empowerment of the previously disenfranchised. People of color were empowered. Women were empowered. Employees, at least in theory and lip service, were empowered. And not in theory and lip service, but in actuality. Employees are still empowered, and that's why you always get crappy customer service. Anyways, that's an aside. And children were empowered. Nobody stopped to say, yes, it is right that adults should have equal rights in their relations with one another. It is right that women and people of color should have equal rights relative to white males. But what is true for adults in their relations with other adults may not be true for parents in their relations with children. No. Instead, they said, empower everybody? Why not? My answer is because the first job of the parent is to teach culture to the child, and authoritative teaching requires authority. So he fails to mention, again, however, what was going on here in the United States during the 60s and 70s, Haight-Ashbury. Yes, there were various empowerment movements going along, and there is there's a movement now I saw on Twitter that there's somebody out there that is claiming that being a parent is as oppressive as being rich or white, which really doesn't make any sense, because there's nothing oppressive about being either rich or white, nor being oppressive, nor a parent. There's nothing oppressive about it. But again, it was the idea to get people to go along with it. It wasn't sold, and that's what the question here. How did the left sell us on becoming friends with our children? Because it just seems so ludicrous on its face. And the way they did that was, again, it was an implied threat that if you aren't friends with your children are going to grow up to be teenagers, they are going to rebel against you, and they're going to run away to Haight-Ashbury, drop acid, and then dive out of a second-floor window. And you're going to get to see that on the news. And parents around the country were deathly afraid that that was going to happen, because they used to see those kinds of reports on the news on a regular basis. So here comes the left to the rescue. Don't worry, Mr. and Mrs. Parent in the United States of America. We will show you how to avoid that fate. And the way to do it is to be your child's friend instead of their parent. And it's crap. All it leads to is brattiness and irresponsibility, among other things. Where do we stand? The Supreme Court refused to hear Texas' lawsuit against 4 states, saying that Texas had no standing to sue the other states. Flat out wrong. I will go into more details, but I did go into more detail yesterday, or on my previous episode, about why that they're wrong. But and I will go into that again in the future on future episodes, more into detail about that. Also, Attorney General Barr has resigned, and it's going to be effective just a day or two before Christmas. He resigned yesterday. He gave the letter to President Trump that he is resigning. As far as I'm concerned, better late than never. That Attorney General Barr should have been fired a long time ago. And that this whole notion of the Attorney General being an independent person in an administration is ridiculous. There's nothing in the Constitution that declares the Attorney General to be independent. There is nothing. Zero. So it's false on its face. And so he was not a very loyal person. As soon as he came out and complained to a journalist that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, was making his job difficult, bang, he should have been fired right there. He should have been called on the phone and say, don't even bother to come back to your office. Get in your car and drive straight home. That's what I would have done. But anyways, let's see. President Trump has a new lawsuit against the state of Georgia. And by the way, supposedly, there's electors are meeting, and they're supposedly declaring somebody other than President Trump to be the new president of the United States. it's not over. And it's not over until Donald Trump says it's over. And I say that because I trust Donald Trump. Okay? I don't trust anyone else. Anyone else involved in making the declaration as to whether or not who is president or who isn't. It's just all wishful thinking as far as I'm concerned. And it's all done by a bunch of people that are proven liars, chronic, habitual liars, addicted to lying. And so the only person I can trust in this regard is Donald Trump. Let's see. The Supreme Court, we have a majority 6-3. So again, no matter what happens with regards to the election, we still have also, again, as I said yesterday, to people of the state of Georgia, anyone in Georgia listening to this podcast, get out and vote. Get out and, I don't care who you vote for, get out and vote and get it done with. Let's get this over with. This is ridiculous. We had an election on November 3rd, and we're still dickering around with it. It's gone on for weeks. Now we're going to have another election on January 5th for the Senate seats, and if you don't vote, then there's a possibility that maybe we're going to have another tie, or that so we're going to have to go on to January 6th and 7th, and it drags out for another 3 weeks, and we're into this in February or March. And if the people of the state of Georgia are not sick of this, sick and tired of politics, sick and tired of campaigning, sick and tired about being bothered for money. Every day I get emails. Oh, Ron, what's wrong with you? And I mean, they're arrogant emails, treating me like I'm some kind of a piece of garbage because I haven't donated recently to this campaign. How come I'm not donating to this Senate campaign in Georgia? I'm sick of it. Okay, so if the people in Georgia aren't sick of all this campaigning, I am. And the rest of America is too. So if you're not going to get out and vote for your own benefit, do it for the rest of us, so we can be done with this at last. Republicans have 213 seats in the House of Representatives, with Mark Garcia being the latest Republican to win his race. The Senate, again, 50-48 in favor of the Republicans, with 2 races outstanding. 27 governorships belong to the Republicans, as opposed to the Democrats' 23. Republicans control 55 of 99 state legislative chambers. Voters in 4 more states made the wrong choice and legalized the recreational use of marijuana. And it's the wrong choice for obvious reasons. First of all, there's no good reason to legalize it. There is no rational good reason to do it. It's done because people simply give up and think that it is inevitable. And then they use that as a foundation to now, in the state of California, create a ballot measure to decriminalize magic mushrooms, heroin, and cocaine. And I was looking at an episode, the script of an episode from several weeks back, where I asked that very question. I said, what's next? Heroin? Little did I know that, yes, the state of California is actually going to have the temerity to put on the ballot a measure to decriminalize heroin and cocaine. So, let's see what else we've got here. I'm going to skip all that. So, when I come back, conservative vocabulary. Thank you. There's more to being a conservative than how you vote. There's the most important things if you want to be influential in life, if you want to be able to influence others. And that's the reason we communicate in the first place, because we want to influence other people's judgment. And in order to be influential, to have maximum influence, you have to have maximum credibility. In order to have maximum credibility, you need to have maximum integrity. Getting your act together is the way the left puts it. Okay, and that means the large part of having your maximum integrity is consistency. So it's not good enough to go out and vote against abortion and then come home and smoke a joint, okay, and get stoned. That there's no integrity in that. So, and you also talking like a lefty, using the same kinds of language or using the same phrases and slang terms. The left loves their slang terms. And not only important what you're saying, but what they want you to avoid saying. Words like no, go back, acceptance, mind your own business. From now on, right, wrong, should, good, bad, evil, reality, certainty, morality, beauty, and polity. These are terms that are conservative because they express bias. They are non-neutral. How to win? Follow the conservative commandments. Number 1, thou shalt not be neutral. If you don't learn anything else from this broadcast, learn not to be neutral. Don't talk as though you are a network news person. You're biased. Okay, you're male or you're female. So that's bias number 1. You're an American or you are from some other country. You're a citizen of another country. That's bias number 2, and on and on and on. You are biased. Act like it. Number 2, thou shalt not be pragmatic. The ends don't justify the means. Number 3, thou shalt not be idealistic. There is no perfection. There's never been a perfect society. There isn't one now, and there never will be. Let's see. Number 4, thou shalt not be materialistic. Remember that the term justice, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, but it's just as real as anything you can touch and feel. Number 5, thou shalt not be skeptical. Not only is there certainty of knowledge, there is nothing but certainty of knowledge. Number 6, thou shalt not be an activist. You will make plans. To the greatest extent possible, you will think things through. When some lefty asks, where's all the evidence of election fraud? The best answer is, you mean you don't see it? When are you going to open your eyes? The quote of the day, quote, don't expect to build up the weak by pulling down the strong, unquote. Calvin Coolidge. Back in a minute. Thank you. Be of good cheer. The universe is benevolent, and success is to be expected. Therefore, the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win. And more importantly, they have no integrity. Think about it. On the next episode, culture as the foundation of society. And that concludes another episode of The Drill. Be honest. Be smart. Be beautiful. And always ask yourself, what is real? How do I know? And what should I do about it? I'm Ron, and that is The Drill.